Oddly enough, this is the second go at making this film. Last year, I did a film following the Castleman Corkscrew, a disused railway that ran through the New Forest from Brockenhurst to Hamworthy. I discovered that prior to the railways, the town of West Moors didn't exist. It came about because somebody decided to link Salisbury with Wimborne and plonked a railway junction there. That fired my interest, so I did some digging, and here we are. As there's not much left of the line, I decided it would make a good winter project. Nip out on a sunny day to do the location stuff, then use the dark evenings to throw it together. Do a bikecumentary without a bike. Probably not a lot of droning either. Then I had the brilliant idea of starting the film talking about why we have so many disused railways. That sort of took over and became a separate film. Have a look at Defending Dr. Beeching on this channel. It's quite a story. Behind the camera, we have my son Ross, who is directing and doing loads of techie stuff. Seconds out, round 2, West Moors to Salisbury. By 1840, the railways had reached Southampton, and an extension to Dorchester was planned by Wimborne solicitor Charles Castleman and his mates. The original Castleman deal included a link between Alderbury and West Moors. It sort of got forgotten about, but resurfaced in 1844 and again in 1845. So the main line from Southampton to Salisbury and beyond, and the Castleman Corkscrew were both up and running. The idea was for a short connecting line between Alderbury and West Moors. One advantage would be direct connections between the north and the south coast for holiday traffic, and the ports of Poole and Weymouth would have a direct route northwards. The other advantage was that it would cut 30 miles off of north-south journeys and avoid a change in Southampton. Railways needed to carry people and goods to make a profit. Apart from a couple of small villages and the odd field of cows, the proposed line had neither of these, but 15 years later, industry's needs were changing and rail traffic was growing, so it was time for a rethink. So we're starting where the previous film left off, at West Moors. I'm standing in Arnold Close, and directly behind me is the Castleman Corkscrew heading towards Ringwood. Curving around to my right is the route to Salisbury. And where these two houses are is the point where the lines converged. Today, West Moors is quite busy, but prior to the line it was just farmland. Thing is, it nearly didn't become a town at all. Originally, the line was going to follow the River Avon from Fordingbridge to Ringwood. New lines usually played join the dots and connected existing settlements. It was also the shortest route, but the decision was made to go further west and cut off a bigger corner. The plan was to put in a spur so that trains could run to Ringwood or Wimborne, but it didn't get built. So in 1898, West Moors Junction was a station and a hotel, not a lot else happening. The station was the first one built and it was opened in 1867. Looking towards Ringwood, the line to Salisbury heads to the left, and the place where the lines converge is where I did the intro. Looking towards Wimborne, the only building still standing today is Crossing Keeper's Cottage. This is post-beaching with the windows boarded up, tracks partially lifted and the station closed. Today the cottage has been extensively restored and is now called Gateman's Cottage. The line shut to passengers in 1964, and over the years the buildings fell into disrepair and were gradually demolished. Where the station was is this block of flats called Castleman Court. The hotel's still there though. Walking through to where the end of the platform was, these old buffers are the only remaining part of the station. This picture was taken at the end of the platform where the tracks diverge. The Castleman forks to the right and the line to Salisbury forks left. There's also a set of tracks in the middle that aren't marked on any map. These secret tracks lead us very nicely to the next stop on the line. During World War II there was a large military presence in the area, and the MOD needed somewhere close, but not too close to the bases to store fuel and ammo. West Moors fitted the bill nicely, easy rail access and far enough away that should it go up in flames in a big bang, it would only wipe out a few locals. Where the tracks were heading was the MOD fuel dump, and military bases weren't usually on maps. It's still a military base today, but considerably downsized and with slightly less flammable stuff. Both the Castleman and Westmoors to Salisbury lines were closed following the Beeching cuts, and most of the track lifted, but the section from Poole to Westmoors was kept operational to serve the base, finally closing in 1977. Leaving the fuel dump behind, the line headed northwards, crossing just to the west of Three-Legged Cross and into Verwood. What we thought we'd do is, rather than me standing in the studio yakking about it, we get out here in the sunshine and have a look at some of this old infrastructure. The first one we've got is Horton Way, just south of Verwood, and what we're going to try and do is see what's here, have a bit of a scrabble about. What are them bolts then?
Those are used for shoring up brickwork.
So far so good. Oh, okay, bit on the steep side. Let's turn all tree hugger. It's a bit blocked off. I don't know what's this way.
You could easily climb around that, I think.
Yeah, you could. Let's have a look down here. Well, it's
not the most navigable path.
no, it's not. What we've got to do, get down again. Ha. You're doing what I think you're doing.
I'm being naughty.
Okay.
So this is on top of the bridge right now. Old bit of mattress there by the look of it.
Just up the line from Three-Legged Cross and the bridge at Horton Way is our next stop, Verwood, which has been around forever thanks to this stuff and these. The area has loads of good quality clay that's easy to extract and loads of trees to chop down and use to fire kilns. Pottery has been made in the area since at least Roman times, and Verwood was the epicentre of the local industry. The type of pottery made was earthenware. It was sold over a wide area by travelling salesmen called hawkers. However, transporting it without smashing most of it on the journey was a problem. Horse and cart on potholed gravelled roads isn't the best way to transport breakables. Once the railway arrived, problem solved. The station was built right next to the two brickworks, and this old picture shows the chimneys. The railways enabled expansion of the brickworks and potteries, and tile manufacturers set up shop in the early 20th century. So what's left of the station and all of this industry? Basically this, the Albion Hotel. The bridge carried the road to Verwood, and looking over the bridge to the south, instead of a station and pottery chimneys, we see a desert of houses. This is the Albion pub, and just round here is a bit of the old bridge that took the road over the railway. So this used to be the road from Cranbourne to Verwood, just coming up to the bridge. Not sure what's left of it. Let's have a look. Right. That's what's left of the old railway line. That's looking northwards. And looking south, that's where the line was. Whilst the location was a good thing for industry, the poor old passengers had to trudge 3/4 of a mile from the town centre to catch a train. About 3¼ miles up the line from Verwood, we come to the village of Alderholt and the third station on the line. Today it's quite a large village, but back in 1807 it was a small collection of houses, a manor and a pottery with very few connections to anywhere. What changed was the road between Cranbourne and Fordingbridge that was opened in 1855 and the railway line opening 11 years later, but no station. The station was the last piece of infrastructure to be built, opening a decade after the railway. Given the choice, the railway company wouldn't have built it at all. In 1864, George Onslow Churchill sold land on condition a station was built. Once the line was opened, the company decided the station wouldn't make economic sense, so dropped it. So he went to court to make them build it. It went back and forth until the court decided in his favour and gave London South Western 3 months to build it or stop operating. London South Western's response: not a problem, we'll build the station, but no trains will stop there. So back to court it goes, and a deal was reached. The station opened in 1876 at Alderholt, but shortly after opening the name was changed to Dagon's Road. Apparently, passengers kept confusing it with Aldershot in Hampshire and ended up 60 odd miles from where they wanted to be. The reason the railway company didn't want to bother with the station was because there was no industry to speak of and very few people lived there. So the line just breezed through on its way to Fordingbridge, ignoring both the village and the existing pottery. So what's left? Just the church alarms and a small road called Station Yard. The bridge and station has been demolished and the area landscaped. The station was 3/4 of a mile from the village in the middle of nowhere. See a pattern emerging? So this one is just outside Alderholt. We're going to have a go at scrabbling up. Sort of looks promising. Oh, well, look. Oh, there's a track bed up here. No, there's not a track on it. There's just it's a path. In the dappled sunshine, it's really rather pleasant. I think it's collapsed a bit here by the looks of it. Silver birch, I think. Don't do plants. Okay. The guys we met were just telling us they've got a couple of 100 yards back up that way. You can't walk some of the path because they said that there's a farmer who's quite happy to shoot you for trespass. So maybe we won't go that way. Let's head towards the bridge, see what we can see. Ah, here we go. It's just the same as the other one, boarded off. Although I do think you won't be able to sort of scrabble around the edges on this one quite so easy as last time, eh? Still heading northeast, we follow the line past the bridge we've just scrabbled on that's over Sandalheath Road, missing out the bit where the farmer will shoot you, and into Fordingbridge. Fordingbridge is named after this ancient bridge. As well as being a market town, it had the related industries of farming and spinning flax and then turning it into sailcloth and rope. There were two choices for where to put the station. One site was close to the town centre and the other further away to the west. The one furthest from the town was chosen. As well as being far from the town, there wasn't any industry either. But build it and they will come, and the new station attracted industry in the form of a cotton mill, food factory and a vineyard right by the station. And most important of all, it attracted pigeons. Fordingbridge was a very popular place to release homing pigeons, and many specials ran. However, passengers weren't so happy with the standard 3/4 of a mile walk to catch a train. When bus services were introduced, given the choice between a bus stop right in town or a hike in the rain to the station, guess what the punters chose? Whilst Fordingbridge station was the largest on the line, there's nothing there now. Where the station, goods yard and vineyards used to be, there is an industrial estate and some houses called the Old Vineries. The railway hotel is interesting. After the line closed, it was called the Load of Hay, then the Augustus John. At some point, the architectural details were removed, and the front of the building made, well, boring. It stood empty for a while, but has been lovingly restored as a boutique hotel. I love how faithfully it's been done, right down to the painted hoardings on the side. The front has been restored from this photograph. All of the windows, doors, and architectural details are back, plus some additional touches, such as these gates and the carriage in the car park. Our next lump of infrastructure is Mile Lane Bridge, just a short distance north of the station. Okay, so this was a bit of a bugger to find. Mile Way's the bridle way. You might be able to get along here on a horse, but certainly not on with a car. The track bed must have come along here. And we're heading north towards Downton. I don't know how long this goes on for, but it looks to me as if you go up that way, you can go on for a while. So we leave Fordingbridge, go past the Mile Lane Bridge and cross the A338 at Burgate. Next stop is Bremer. There's been a settlement here since the Iron Age. Plus, there's a lovely Elizabethan manor house. Henry VIII beheaded the owner and appropriated it for himself in 1539. He then gave it to his fifth wife, Catherine Howard. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded. Beheaded it is then. After he chopped her head off, he gave the place to his next wife, Catherine Parr. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. After Henry's death, she married Thomas Seymour, and Henry's son, Edward VI, gave him the manor. Shortly after they married, she died in childbirth. Edward VI died young, and hubby Thomas Seymour went on to have his head chopped off for treason. Elizabeth I appropriated everything, giving Bremer to one of her mates. Even before the railways, Bremer was a buzzing little place. As well as the manor, there were chalk pits, gravel pits and a dairy. Today, Bremer is the only station on the line still standing. Leaving Bremer, the line follows the A338 for a short while, then bears right towards the River Avon, and then into Downton. It can trace its roots back to Neolithic times and was popular with the Romans. But let's go back down the line a bit and back to 1884. It was Salisbury Market Day and the train left Downton heading south. Just past the River Avon crossing, the driver noticed the engine gathering speed, and the brake van behind the engine was jumping about a bit. He looked behind to find that the train had detached itself from the engine and had ended up in a ditch by Downton Agricultural College. 41 were injured and 4 died, one of which was the 14-year-old daughter of the Bremer station master. He arrived to help and discovered her body. She drowned in the coach that had upturned into a water-filled ditch. London South Western claimed the accident was caused by a faulty coupling. They spent the night repairing the line and hiding evidence. The Board of Trade Inquiry found that the train was running late and speeding. It had derailed, breaking the coupling. Although the track was well maintained, it wasn't designed for speed, and the curve where the accident happened was sharper than the plan submitted to Parliament. It was also the third derailing in 9 months. The next accident was in 1904, also just south of Downton, but this time no fatalities. In Downton there are no visible signs the railway ever existed, apart from this road called the Sidings, where the station was. These bungalows are built on the line itself and were walking along the platform. From Downton, the line leaves the flat plain of the Avon Valley and heads for the hills, and the only tunnel on the line. Downton Tunnel was 107 yards long, but had some very deep cuttings on the approach both ends. The best way to see where the tunnel was is from above. When the line closed, the cuttings were filled in and landscaped. The green line of trees is heading south towards the northern portal of the tunnel. Where we're at is north of the Downton Tunnel. This is the third bridge. I wasn't going to bother going up it, but Ross says he's going to have a go. Last 2 are blocked off. I don't see why this one wouldn't be either.
Well, one way to find out, right?
Oh,
there's a fence up here.
is there?
Yeah, it's like a little path going along the top here.
Okay, I'll come up and have a look then. Yeah, if it wasn't for this fence, I wouldn't be doing this. Right, okay. Yay, we're up. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, Ross was certainly right that there's a path up here that goes on top of the track bed. Let's go have a scrabble about. It's nowhere near as overgrown as the previous one. This is right on top of the bridge. Got it? Oh, this looks like fun. Looks like you can walk some way on this. You might even be able to walk all the way to the Downton Tunnel. Well, you certainly can walk on this path. It's just not easy. Having had a scramble on the bridge, let's head northwards. First stop is the point where the sod cutting ceremony was. Construction of the railway started in 1863, with the first sod being ceremoniously cut by Countess Nelson from Trafalgar Park. Names ringing any bells? She was the wife of Horatio Nelson. Not that one. Upon his death at the Battle of Trafalgar, Admiral Nelson's elder brother inherited all of his titles and suggested that the grateful nation might like to buy him an estate in honour of his dead brother. Stan Lynch Park, just north of Downton, was compulsory purchase for him by said grateful nation. He changed the name of the estate to Trafalgar Park and the family name from Bolton to Nelson. The name Horatio got recycled quite a bit, and the countess who performed the ceremony was the wife of Admiral Nelson's older brother's great-nephew, who had inherited the title. I think we're on the hottest day of the year so far. The reason we're having a bit of a tramp around in the countryside is we're trying to find the spot where Lady Nelson dug the first sod. To my left hand side is the path of the old railway. Apparently the first sod was dug about 2 miles north of Downton, which makes it about here. The line runs to the east of the estate, and the sod cutting ceremony was performed about half a mile northeast of the estate. According to the local rag, it was a foul day, so the ceremony was cut short so they could all adjourn to the beer tent as fast as possible. The last section of the route takes us to Alderbury, where it joins the Southampton to Salisbury line. The railway line ran northwards through Whaddon, then over the defunct Southampton to Salisbury Canal. This was open for 6 years, but stopped here as they ran out of money to build the last bit, and onwards to the junction. The junction was more of a halt than a station. It had a couple of platforms and a signal box. In this photo, the main line to Southampton is on the left, and our line branches off to the right. There's no sign of the railway today. Both the platform and the bridge over the canal are buried under the A36, but the end of the canal, known as Alderbury Wharf, is still there. After Alderbury, the line continued to Salisbury, the official end of the line. The line was popular with passengers and it served local industries well, so what led to its downfall? Salisbury and Dorset Railway Company, who built it, and London South Western, who operated it, always had an adversarial relationship. London South Western felt there wasn't enough local industry or population to make a profit, so didn't want the line built in the first place. Rather than building a line that could be upgraded, they built a single-track line with a narrow-bore tunnel at Downton. Passenger growth was limited, and it was unsuitable for increasingly heavy goods trains. London South Western had their own weird agenda and discouraged passengers from using the line. They refused to sell tickets from Waterloo that were routed through Fordingbridge, and made it cheaper for passengers going from the west to Salisbury to go the extra 30 miles and change at Southampton. Poor connections with mainline services was always a problem. Over time, much of the local industry became unviable and closed, depriving the line of its lifeblood, goods traffic. That left farming and some light industry, which was increasingly transported by road. Then along comes Dr. Beeching's report in 1963, and the rest is history. The Salisbury and Dorset and the Castle and Corkscrew both officially closed on the same day, 4th of May 1964. Although the line from Poole was kept open for a few years to service the MOD fuel dump, it was the end of an era. I've looked at some of these issues in my other films, in particular the Castle and Corkscrew Then and Now, and Defending Dr. Beeching. As I'm a local boy born and bred, most of my films are about the Poole, Bournemouth and Christchurch area. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this film, please give me a like and click subscribe.